Welcome to tonight's market update as we take a look into the broader markets, the S&P 500, some Bitcoin charts, and DRB, Debt Relief Bot. Now let's jump into the charts. Alrighty, right here we have the S&P 500 on a weekly time frame. Currently, we're in a 5-year ascending channel from 2020. It's been respected quite some time. We got many lows here as support. And we have a high here back in 2022, and currently is forming the same high as it did back in 2022. And I believe we have 3 separate scenarios here. We'll go with the first one would be a breakout and a retest of the yearly pivot and to new all-time highs. That's one scenario. I believe the likely scenario would be this currently. Price looks like it's going to top here. I would say next couple of weeks, maybe month. Technically, we have this ascending trend line here of this channel and the yearly pivot, the R1, at around 7,015 it is. It's going to be quite a bit of resistance here. And as I'll show you in the next chart, we have more confluence here as price is compressing. But the first scenario would be this breakout, a new all-time high. I believe we're due for some sort of correction. So that looks likely to me that we're going to sell off and probably come down to the yearly pivot and possibly gather support there, back test this broken resistance as support and make another push higher. That would be my first choice. Ultimately, this could also happen as well. I'll just move this up here. We could come down here, and this is a 10% correction from this high to this low. It would be a 10%, 12% correction. Possible bounce, and then basically making a higher low, and then essentially making its way to the bottom of the channel, and that would come into the second or third quarter of this year. That would be the third choice. So, but ultimately, I would go with the one in the middle. It's very likely we're probably due for some sort of correction or sell-off. Now, we're going to jump to another S&P chart. So currently, this is the S&P on a 6-hour. I have a distribution schematic of Wyckoff, and I drew this out a couple weeks ago. It seems like price is forming this pattern. We have, once again, we have this ascending trend line of this channel, and we also have this ascending trend line as well, and it's forming basically an ascending wedge, which is ultimately bearish, the higher hit rate that it's going to go down, and price is compressing, and the climax point of this would be towards the end of this month, like another week or so. Yeah, once again, I believe we're probably going to find out pretty soon here what's going to happen, and the price should make its descent down to the yearly pivot and also the midline of this channel. Now we can jump into Bitcoin. Now this is Bitcoin on the 3-day. This is the Gaussian channel. I'm just illustrating and trying to see how high this rally could go and where we could likely get a rejection and then a further move to the downside to ultimately find the bottom of this essential bear market that we're in. So in the prior cycle on the 3-day, price came up and hit the midline of this channel and then started to make its descent to the bottom. And currently, if it did that, price would reach roughly like 106K. Currently, we're testing the outer boundary of this channel. We got a rejection right here around 98,000, 99. That's what I'm looking for right now. So possibly we could get another push higher. I guess it's like around 106. Now let's jump into another Bitcoin chart. This is a chart I find very interesting. It's a super guppy on a weekly for Bitcoin. So currently, this super guppy, when this flips gray, as it has in the past, price likes to come back through, and then ultimately start its descent to the downside. I did it here back in 2018. I did the same thing back in 2022, and I'm currently looking for this to happen one more time. And I found something a little interesting. I want to see how high we can go. So I'm going to zoom in here and show you a couple things that I found. So as price comes back through and back test this gray zone of the super guppy, if you just take a measurement from the guppy to the high, It's around 9%. So let's go to that was 2018. So let's go to the last cycle. If we zoom in, we'll get another percent. That was roughly like 8% as well. Now, and as you can see, I had this marked out, and I think the last one was like 63 days. We'll zoom out here a little bit. Yeah, the time that price actually fell out of the guppy and came back through took about 63 days. That was back in 18. This time, back in 22, it took roughly 70 days. And currently, 70 days would line us up with January 26th. And it kind of lines up with the S&P. That's why I'm always looking at the broader markets, because it does affect Bitcoin. If we do get a sell-off in the S&P and equities, it will definitely put sell pressure on Bitcoin. So I'm just bringing this to everybody's attention. Let's see how high price could go for this rally. Let's zoom in here a little bit. If we come out of the guppy here, 8%, we'll say 9%. That's like 108K. Put a little trend line there. So we're going to look at all the charts and come up with a formulated thesis at the end of this video so we can see kind of where the levels are going to be, where we could get a rejection of this rally. So we got 108K. And as you can see, I have the golden pocket marked out, Fibonacci. I basically pulled it from this low to the high. And the golden pocket roughly comes in around 54K to 59K. And I would think that would be a likely area to bottom if we do start this sell-off, especially shorting the market and actually getting in the beginning of a cycle. So bear market is the best time to make money. You position yourself and everybody pays you basically on the way up. So I get excited when I see bear markets. All right, let's jump to another chart here. We have Bitcoin here on the 3-day. So this chart is illustrating we have the fixed range volume profile. I pulled this from back in February of 24, encapsulated all the price action. And currently we rejected right here at the value area high. I'm looking, so this is one zone. We could get a rejection here. It's very possible. But I think it's likely that we have a throw over and a continued rally. I'm looking at like 103, and this would be the support and resistance that lines up with that. If we happen to go through, that's a likely area. And then the last area is 106. This would actually make a larger head and shoulders pattern. Continue our descent down to find the bottom. And on this chart, the point of control is right here at around 67, 68K of this fixed range volume profile. Jump into another chart of Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin on the 3-day. And once again, I illustrated a fixed range volume profile. You have the value area high. And this is the fixed range volume profile back from February of 24. And then I pulled another one here from November of 24. And we have the value area high currently where we got rejected. Point of control of the fixed range volume profile from November of 24. So that's why we have a lot of resistance here. And that's why we got rejected. Along with other things, we have the EMAs. The red is the 50. The cyan is the 100. And the blue is the 200. And this is on the 3-day. Currently in this ascending channel, which is a bear flag. And it's the exact same pattern that we had back in 2022. We also had 382 fib here as well. But once again, when I pull this fib here, I'll pull it again so everybody can see how I did this. Just pull from the high to the low. Oops, let's turn that back on. There we go. And you got your 382 fib right where we got rejected. And we also have the 108, and that's the golden pocket. And let me turn on the 0.5. And I believe that comes in at 103. These are 3 levels I'm looking at for this counter rally to actually end, and then before we start our descent to the downside. Currently, yeah. And also as well, we're going to look at the 2-day real quick. Currently on the 2-day, the 50 is actually crossing through the 200, That's why we're finding lots of resistance here at the moment. There's too many points of confluence here, so it's a lot of technicals. That's why the market is kind of having a hard time getting through this resistance. But I do believe we're going to make another push higher, as I illustrate in the next chart. So we're going to zoom in here a little bit and get closer to the price action. Currently, price rejected from the yearly pivot. We got just above a little throw over, and we rejected from the 382 fib. And price is currently coming down and finding support on a local golden pocket, as well as a monthly R1. Looks like price wants to make another push up. I'm looking into this zone. This would be my first choice, back up into 99 to 100K. The other option would be price may continue to sell off as the markets open tomorrow, and we may come down and test this bottom trend line of this bear channel, as well as a monthly pivot, find support, and make another push higher. So that's what I was looking to for the second scenario. Or the third scenario is we could find support here and just continue all the way up to this channel, find support, throw over, clear the highs, hit that 103 mark, and possibly a rejection from there and make our descent. We still have time. I just want to see this price action formulate within this bear flag. And I'm basically looking, the three zones that I'm looking at is 98 to 100K, 103,000, and ultimately 108 to 110. That would be my extreme aggressive target. And if price continues to sell off, I'm looking to find support between 88 and 89K. All right, now we're going to jump into the USDT dominance chart. I find this chart very interesting. This is on a weekly time frame. Currently, this is illustrating, I have all these vertical lines illustrating the timing when USDT dominance bounces off of this trend line, calls the tops in the market, as it did back here in 18. We did here once again back in 21. We call the exact top off the bottom of this trend line. Currently, we are forming the same pattern as we did back in 2022 as we are now. That's why I'm looking for this end of this counter rally at some point at the specified targets I illustrated in the last chart. Last time we had a range here. I'll draw a smaller range so you can see. Something like this. We had a rejection, 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 price retraced, found support, and made its final push through. And that's how we found the bottom of the bear market, is when USDT dominance tops out. So currently, we're doing the same exact thing. We broke out. We had rejection, rejection, and now we broke through. We broke through. Now price is finding support. And I'm looking for USDT dominance to actually find support and make another push higher, as illustrated in this chart. All right, let's jump into one more chart. This is DRB on a weekly time frame, debt relief bot. Currently, back in March 25, we had an all-time high. Price seemed to have rejected exactly at the same level it was back then, roughly 000.4. And we also had the yearly R2 there as well. Now let's zoom in here to the daily time frame real quick and see what's going on. It looks like price rejected, came down to the golden pocket. We had a strong buy signal. Everybody bought up debt relief bot, and now we're finding support exactly on the golden pocket. Currently, price action is rounding here, so it's pretty bullish. I would like to see continue push, and I believe this time we'll make it through the all-time high, because it's not normal to make it through the all-time high in the first pass. But if we get strength here and Bitcoin decides to go up to reach those higher levels that I showed on the last chart, there's a good chance we'll break this all-time high. Currently, if I zoom in here a little bit more, let's take a look at the RSI. Let's look at the 8-hour. All right. We currently have hidden bullish divergence here on the 8-hour. It means it's probably price is resetting to make a final push. And hidden bullish divergence is generally continuation to the upside. So that's pretty good news for that. If anybody's looking for another impulse from debt relief bot, looks extremely positive here from my point of view on the charts. And with that, we'll do a quick recap. You know, everyone, there's, as illustrated in most of the charts I showed, There's probably most likely going to be a Bitcoin correction, and it can and will happen. But this is often the exact catalyst that ignites capital rotation into strong narrative altcoins. So just because of Bitcoin has a correction, there's plenty of coins that will most likely rotate and capital will flow into them and prices will go up. And with that, thank you for watching tonight's market update. If you found value, please like, subscribe, drop your favorite coins in the comments below, and the coins with the most mentions will be featured in the next update. I'll catch you in the next one.